You're not behind. AIO is not replacing SEO. It's more
hmm
like a layer it's like a layer of complexity that's being added on top. So in the intro, I said that SEO is still the cake, that sponge part of the cake, and AIO is the icing on top of that cake. Okay, it's
Okay.
important and we need
hmm
to learn about it, but we need to see it as this thin layer that's being added on top of something.
This episode is brought to you by Therapy Notes, therapynotes.com. For the past 20 plus years, I've been working in the mental health field as a licensed therapist, private practice owner, coach, and consultant. And I've learned a lot the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi there, I'm Gordon Brewer, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your practice, or looking for fresh inspiration, this podcast is here to support you in your journey. Each week, we explore the real-world challenges and opportunities that come with building and growing your private practice. From marketing and money management to ethics, client care, and self-care, we cover it all. You'll hear from leading experts, seasoned clinicians, and innovative voices in the mental health and allied health fields, all sharing their insights and strategies to help you thrive in your practice. So let's jump in and get to today's episode of the Practice of Therapy podcast. Welcome to the podcast. This is episode number 439 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. I'm Gordon Brewer. So glad you've joined me for this particular episode, and I'm looking forward to you hearing from our guest. But I hope also, as we're coming off the a holiday weekend, as this episode is coming out, the 4th of July celebration, 250th anniversary of the United States. I hope you had a good time over the weekend and enjoying the summertime. I know here in East Tennessee, it finally feels like summer in that it's been really hot and humid. So welcome to the South, folks. But anyway, looking forward to you hearing from my guest, Natalie Moore. And Natalie has been on this podcast before. If you'll go back and look up episode number 378, where she talks about how to rank on Google and private practice keyword research and that sort of thing. And in this particular episode, we jump into something that was a new term to me, which was AIO, which instead of SEO, search engine optimization, this is AIO, artificial intelligence optimization. And so Natalie jumps into this and talks about how, really, as she put it, SEO is still important. It's not going away, but the AIO is kind of the icing on the cake. And so we delve into this topic, and I think you'll find it interesting. I know a lot of us are using AI more and more in different ways. You know, it's something I end up using about every day now, either in my personal life, just looking up stuff, or in just getting help with the podcast here and doing writing things and figuring out courses and things like that. But anyway, it's a hot topic right now. I don't think AI is ever going to replace us as therapists. I think people still crave that human touch, and I don't think AI has gotten that good yet. Hopefully it won't ever, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, looking forward to you hearing from Natalie. And before we get to that, though, if you are interested in working with me and doing some consulting or coaching, I absolutely love working with people individually for that. And to find out more about that, you can go to practiceoftherapy.com and go and click on the button there that says coaching and consulting. And you can sign up to for us to do a free 15-minute brainstorming session to really kind of look at what are your goals and ways in which I might be able to help you in your practice on any number of different things. So be sure and check it out. And also, before we get to my conversation with Natalie, love for you to hear from our sponsor of the podcast, TherapyNotes.
Hi, this is Rachel, Gordon's podcast assistant, and I want to share the platform Gordon trusts for his own practice, TherapyNotes. TherapyNotes is the highest rated EHR, practice management, and billing software for mental health professionals. It's an all-in-one system for scheduling, notes, billing, and secure client communication. And if you ever need help, their 24/7 customer service is always just a call or email away. Their latest update, Therapy Fuel, uses AI to streamline documentation, generating progress notes, creating contact notes from client messages, and even summarizing client history forms, saving therapists hours every week. Are you ready to give it a try? Head to therapynotes.com, click Start My Free Trial, and use the code GORDON to get your first 2 months free. See why TherapyNotes is the most trusted EHR and the one Gordon chooses for his practice. Please enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm really glad to have back with me today Natalie Moore. Natalie was on an earlier episode last year, and we'll have, I can't remember the number, but I think it was like 334 or something like that. But anyway, we'll have links in that. But welcome, Natalie. Glad you're back.
I'm so excited to be back. It's always an honor when someone brings you back on the podcast. It means you did a good enough job the first time.
All right. Well, Natalie wears a lot of hats. We were talking about that a little bit before. She's got a toddler that she's keeping wrangled in. And then also she has got a practice. But as I start with everyone, Natalie, tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Oh, it's a winding road. I always knew I wanted to be a therapist ever since I took an AP psychology class in high school. So just, I did a bachelor's in psychology, master's in counseling psychology, got all those hours, those 3,000 licensing hours that we love and hate.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point during my training, I was burned out. I know this is a very common story,
Right.
in these churn and burn agency environments. And I remember thinking to myself, this is not what I signed up for. I came into the field very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, excited to help people, excited to do deep soul work that I envisioned it helping to transform people's lives, but also feeling very filled up myself. And that's not what I was experiencing. And I looked at a couple different options in front of me. I actually considered going back to school for a PhD. And when going back to school for a PhD sounds like the easier route than what you're currently doing, you have to take an honest look at your life.
Right.
There was something about going back to school and being under the auspices of an institution and it being structured and being a student again felt kind of like this safe harbor. But then that didn't seem right because I was like, why am I running back to school when I know that that's not actually what I need or what I need to do? And so I thought about it and I realized, you know what? The one way of gaining clinical hours that I hadn't considered or really thought about was doing it in a private practice setting under supervision. I was very intimidated by the idea because the way that it's set up now, a lot of people, when they are associates gaining hours in a private practice setting, they get clients referred to them by their supervisor or by their group practice. But back in 2015 I get the numbers confused now, like 10 plus years ago, the way it really worked was that associates were expected to fill their own caseloads. We were expected to find all of our own clients. I think my supervisor maybe referred me like one or two of my first clients just to kind of throw me a bone, right? And I had to put myself in this position of establishing myself as a professional in the career that I was in while still trying to figure it out myself, right? I had to position myself as this confident expert who had experience when I was in my early 20s and, texting my friends crying at the end of a session saying, I feel like I'm a complete fraud, right? And so not only did I have to learn the clinical confidence, but I also had to learn how to market myself. And now
Right.
there are tons of courses, tons of tools, podcasts such as this one
Mm-hmm.
that support and guide that journey. It's still really hard, so not to minimize that. But 10 years ago, there was only one true course on how to build a private practice. And it cost about $2,000. And this was during a time when I was, running out of gas, driving to my mom's house to ask her for gas money. So I certainly didn't have
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 to spend on a course. And so I had to take it upon myself and teach myself all this stuff. I had to learn how to build a private practice. I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to
Mm-hmm.
help clients find me. And so I was sitting in a laundromat waiting for my clothes to dry. And I remember Googling how to find therapy clients. How to get therapy clients was a Google search that I put in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started reading everything I could get my hands on and just devouring content, whether it was a blog article, podcast, a free webinar, right? Click here to download this
Mm-hmm.
free webinar, whatever it was, I got my hands on it. And I started testing things out. I started seeing, well, what's working, what's not working. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever wasn't working, I would give it a good college try. And then if it wasn't working, retire that option. And what I noticed was that primarily the new clients, the new inquiries that were finding me through my website. And so I
Right.
started listening very carefully too. Therapists are very good at this. We're very good listeners. So whenever a therapist
Mm-hmm.
tells me, oh, I'm really struggling with my marketing, well, the first step in marketing is to listen. Listen to what
Mm-hmm.
people are telling you. And as therapists, that's our biggest skill, right? We're so good at
Right.
listening. So I started listening for trends. Well, anyone who finds me on my web, first of all, how are people finding me? And if they find me through my website, what are they saying landed? What patterns are they repeating? And so a lot of people were saying that they liked how I said I have a holistic approach. Okay, so I leaned into that. And I focused on that even more in my website. So I didn't just talk about holistic. I talked about mind, body, spirit, integrative, somatic. I started leaning into that more and
Mm-hmm.
more and more. And then more people found me that way. So it was kind of this flywheel effect where it was like the more I found out and the more I did, the more results I got from it. So I just kept
Right.
repeating what
Mm-hmm.
was working. And I was reading highly technical SEO articles while waiting in line at Costco to check out with my groceries
Yeah.
and how long those
Yeah.
lines are, right?
Right.
And I just kept implementing. And at a certain point, other colleagues of mine started asking me, Natalie, I'm seeing your website showing up everywhere. What are you doing? How are you doing? Did you hire some big SEO agency to do this for you?
Yeah.
No, I've been doing this myself. So I started teaching my colleagues. And then at a certain point, I realized this is turning into a second job. This is turning into a curriculum. So I
You're
developed
right.
a course around it and individualized coaching and some done for you services. And now it's become a big branch of my business at this point. And it's
That's
so
awesome.
fun for me because it works a different part of my brain. As a therapist, it's so relational and it requires so much patience and so much soul work, right? With coaching, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of nice because I can just be like, do this, do that. Now, yes, kind of just
Yeah.
be strategic and have a plan and implement some of the things that we wish we could do a little more of as a therapist. I feel like I get that itch scratched as a
Oh,
coach.
yeah, yeah. That's what, and I think one of the things I want to point out about that, and this doesn't necessarily relate directly to our topic today, but what you were able to do was kind of give yourself permission to go in a direction that wasn't directly related to all the work you had put into your degree and your training and that kind of thing. And I think people can limit themselves by saying, okay, no, I've got to do just this because it's what I put all my work into. That's what I did. But you went off on this branch of, okay, started an additional business to diversify your income. So kudos to you for that. I mean, I just wanted to point that out as you were talking. So yeah. So
Thank you. Well, they say
yeah.
necessity is the mother of invention. So
Right.
necessity
Right.
is the mother of
All
learning how to do a
right.
new skill. And it's interesting
Yeah.
that you bring that up because actually one of the things that comes up so much in my coaching work with therapists is resistance to marketing. There's this idea, well, I didn't get into this career to market myself, or I didn't think I was going to have to do this, or I didn't realize it was going to be this hard. And we have to work through that because whether you wanted to be a business owner or not, if you're a therapist in private practice, you have to wake up and admit to yourself, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
business owner. I have to
Right.
learn how to run a business. there are a lot of things we do as a therapist that we don't necessarily want to do. Like, who wants to write progress notes? That's no one's favorite thing.
All
Who
right.
wants to do documentation, right?
All right.
Building a business. I'm lucky enough that I really enjoy the marketing side of things, but not every therapist does. And
All
so
right.
there's definitely a piece of this work in working through the hesitations, the resistance, the frustration of,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if I want to have my dream practice, there's certain things I might not be my favorite thing or I might not love it, but these are some things I have to do in order to ensure my success.
Yeah. And I think it's, one of the things that I say to people all the time, the key to all of this, particularly the marketing side of things, is just to be persistent and consistent with what you do. I mean, there's
Mhm.
lots of different ways to get at this, but I think that's really key to for success in the long run. But so just to switch back, I know one of the things we were talking before we started recording, and one of the things that you want to talk about is something called AIO. And so I want you to tell folks what AIO is and how it relates to SEO and both of those things, those two things that get thrown around when we're talking about marketing.
Okay. So one of the things that I really like to start with is to actually reduce fear and reduce overwhelm about these terms. So one thing that let's start with SEO because in order to explain what AIO is, we have to understand what SEO is. So SEO
Mhm.
is search engine optimization. And when we talk about search engines, we're usually talking about Google because historically it's held about 95% of market share. So it pretty much owns that corner of the internet. So and when we say optimization, what we mean is the intentional actions that you take as a practice owner to help Google rank your practice higher for the types of search terms that your ideal clients are typing into Google. So I'm going to explain that again because it's a very complex topic and we're trying to distill it into something really
Mhm.
simple. So search engine optimization, what is a search engine? We're pretty much talking about Google, but there are others like Bing, DuckDuckGo, Firefox, etc. And when we talk about optimization, we're talking about the intentional actions, not just the accidental, oops, I ended up ranking for this thing on accident. The
Mhm.
intentional actions. So finding out what keywords people are using to find you, writing blog posts on topics that you're an expert on, getting featured in the media on topics that you like to speak on and work within your practice. The actions that you're taking to show Google, not just tell Google, but show Google, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. These are the people that I help, the types of issues
Mhm.
that I help people resolve in my practice. And as a result of those actions, your website ranks higher, but not just ranking higher for something random, ranking higher for the exact types of terms that your ideal clients are trying to find you. Okay.
Right.
So now that we've established what SEO is, what is AIO? So AIO stands for Artificial Intelligence Optimization. So one of the things that I wanted to dispel fear around is I've been seeing a lot of posts on social media and articles saying things like SEO is dead, AIO is the future. Now, what I don't like about these types of articles and clickbait is that for someone who is a therapist in private practice and is just trying to get their feet under them with marketing to begin with, they're
Mhm.
just trying to learn what SEO is and implement it, right? They might even be investing in courses or SEO agencies to help them. When they see something like SEO is dead, AIO is the future, there's this fear of, oh no, I'm doing it wrong. Or, oh no, the thing
Mhm.
that I already feel overwhelmed to learn about isn't even the right thing anymore. And it makes
Mhm.
them feel like they're failing or they're behind or that they're doing something wrong. Wait, all this time I've been spending learning and implementing SEO, are you telling me that I've been wasting my time and wasting my money and now I need to jump over to this other thing and learn this new thing? It's very scary, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I like to do is first like stop, take a deep breath. You're
Mhm.
not failing, you're not behind. AIO is not replacing SEO. It's more like a layer it's like a layer of complexity that's being added on top. So in the intro, I said that SEO is still the cake, that sponge part of the cake, and AIO is the icing on top of that cake. Okay, it's important, and we need to learn about it, but we need to see it as this thin layer that's being added on top of something. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so AIO is optimizing your website and your website presence to show up in AI searches. So AI searches being ChatGPT, AI search within the Google search engine results page, Claude, Perplexity, places like this, okay? The strategy is not completely different. So many things that you're already doing for your SEO are helping you show up in AI searches. So it's not a throw this technique and this strategy out and start from scratch. It's keep the same strategy that you've already been doing with SEO and we're getting into the nuance here. We're just refining it a little bit to help you show up better in AI searches. So I'll give you a few examples. So,
okay.
It's 3 a.m. Your phone's buzzing. Central Station's got an alert at the building. No Brevo? You're calling the on-site manager and hoping someone answers. With Brevo and Eagle Eye, skip the call, pull the video, check who badged in. Done. True cloud, no open ports, no cybersecurity exposure. Allen Security installs it and stands behind it. Allen Security. ALEN. Allen Security. Trusted everywhere.
This summer, AAA is helping you save with our flash deal. Join at AAA.com/gas card and get a $50 gas card. Plus, save 25% on a membership and add a driver for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Here's what happened when one journalist reported on DEI programs.
I decided to just focus on the University of Michigan. I obtained internal documents that showed that the school had spent about $250 million on DEI programs. I spent 2 weeks in Ann Arbor talking to everybody I could find. The unintended consequences of these programs, they had sort of left everybody dissatisfied. And this expensive machinery the school had built just imploded. If you're a journalist, you are not on anyone's team. All you're trying to do is figure out as many of the facts as you can gather. The facts are going to guide you to where the story lands. You're not taking sides. I'm Nick Confessori. I'm an investigations reporter for the New York Times.
Journalists like Nick follow the facts wherever they lead. They go where news breaks, get answers firsthand, and publish what they find. That's fact-based reporting. Seek it out if you don't already.
One thing that is really good for SEO is having individual specialty pages on your website. So for example, a lot of therapists in private practice putting up a website, let's say they decide they're going to start up a practice and they put up a website over a weekend because they're like, I just got to get something out and I can perfect it as I go. Great. Let's say they have a home page, about page, contact page. And on their home page, it says specialties and they've just got a list. Anxiety, depression, relationship issues, life transitions, etc. Okay. This is a great start, but this is not going to help you rank on Google because now you've just given Google 4 or 5 different things that you work with, and it doesn't know who exactly to send you because it doesn't send you anxiety people because you just only said it once on your homepage. It doesn't send you depression people again because you only said it once. But if you had an entire page on your website dedicated to anxiety and the types of anxiety that you treat and how you treat it and how your approach is different, right? Then Google will want to rank you when someone is searching for anxiety therapist in my city, in my area, right?
Right.
So those individual specialty pages are one of the most important things you can do for an SEO strategy.
Yeah.
Guess what works really well for an AI strategy?
Yes.
Having specialty pages, because if somebody is typing into ChatGPT, for example, let's say they're typing in anxiety symptoms. Hey, these are the issues that I'm having. Here's what it feels like during my day. Here's the thoughts that I'm having. Help me find a therapist who can address these. And it's all anxiety related symptoms. Well, ChatGPT is not going to want to pull just a typical therapist homepage. It's going to want to pull a therapist who specializes in anxiety, because there are so many options now that in order for ChatGPT to give a really good result, it wants to be specific. It wants to recommend someone who's really going to know about these issues, not just a generalized therapist. So that's just one example. I could keep going down this. Let me give at least one more.
Yeah.
Having testimonials from your colleagues. I don't say client testimonials because the ethics vary from state to state and from profession to profession on whether you can solicit testimonials from clients or not. So I just leave that out of it. But soliciting testimonials from your colleagues for them to post on places like Google Business Profile. We can talk a little bit about what Google Business Profile is too for those listeners who don't know. Getting testimonials from your colleagues on Google Business Profile is a great SEO strategy because it helps you show up in local search. When someone types in best anxiety therapist near me and hits enter on Google, one of the first things that shows up after the ads is the map pack. So, Gordon, have you ever noticed if you're just looking for like local plumber near me, electrician near me, best tacos near me, or something, there tends to be a map with those little red pins.
Yes.
That's called the map pack. You don't show up there just by having a website. You can only show up there if you have something called a Google Business Profile. Good news is they're free, which is amazing these days. Everything costs money. So for something to be free, one of the best assets for your SEO is a Google Business Profile, and it's free. So there's no reason not to have one. Being able to show up there in the map pack, having testimonials, having reviews from your colleagues is a great way of showing up in local search for when someone types in best, because best means they're looking for something high quality. Reviews are kind of the closest thing we have to that. And so that's a great SEO strategy. Guess what's a great AIO strategy? Having Google Business Profile reviews and testimonials helps, again, for those find the best therapist for this issue near me in a ChatGPT search. So that's only 2 examples. I could keep going on and on and on about. Something that's good for SEO that is also good for AIO, something that's good. So now that I've done that, should I tell a little bit more about what Google Business Profile is for those who don't know, or do you feel like I got into
maybe
that?
just touch on that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, that map pack is prime real estate. You want to be showing up there, and we could actually include it in the show notes. Why don't you make a note, Gordon, for me to include the link, because they're very easy to get started setting up. You often will have to verify it by showing your office space and showing that you truly have a brick and mortar location. This can be harder for therapists who are practicing fully virtually. Sometimes you have to get creative and maybe rent 1 hour of office space from a friend, who's a therapist, and get your mail there, so to get that office space. But to have a Google Business Profile is a huge, huge starting point for showing up in local search because of that prime real estate, of that map pack. It also helps differentiate you from the big therapy platforms, which shall not be named, but you know what I mean. The platforms tend to eat up a lot of space in the ads section, and the big platforms will often show up in that first position on Google search. And so the ads can be impossible to, we can't, as a solo practitioner, you can't compete with their ad spend, even if you do have a Google Ads budget. You just can't compete with these platforms. And then it's very hard to compete with that first result on Google, that first organic search result. So when I say organic search results on Google, what I'm talking about is when you do a search on Google, you hit enter, what you see is called the search engine results page. And I'm talking about those bright blue underlined links that you see that big list of. That first, and when I say position, it's what order they're in. That first position is almost always psychology today. And that is going to be not something that you're trying to compete with. So just like if you're a fighter, you compete within your weight class, right? You're not going to compete in a different weight class. You just don't. It's the same thing with SEO. We don't fight outside of our weight class. So when we see psychology today in first position, we say, okay, you've got the first position. We're not going to mess with that. Can I be in the second position? Okay? If there's a big group practice there that's been in your area for 20 years and you're a solo practitioner just starting up, that's probably not in your weight class either. Can I get into the third position, right? We're looking at where are the opportunities? Where are the opportunities here? So Google Business Profile is a great way to kind of work your way around the ads that we can't really compete with and those first position results that we can't really compete with. It's a kind of way of like squeezing yourself in there as a great
Right.
option.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just, with the different ways in which we get people to our websites, what are the areas that with AIO that maybe differ from SEO?
Great question. And I was actually already going to go there. So I'm really glad that you
Okay,
asked
good.
because we talked about
Yeah.
what was the same. So one of the things that's different is that the way people search into AI is different from the way they search into Google. So if you think about the Google search bar, each search is a new thing. If I type in therapist near me, Los Angeles, enter, that is one distinct search. And then let's say I get overwhelmed and close the page, and the next day I type something else and I say, best therapist for moms, Los Angeles, enter. Those
Mhm.
are two distinct searches on two distinct occasions. They might be similar,
Mhm.
but they're two different searches. And I'm usually using a short phrase. I'm usually using 2 words, 4 words, maybe 5 words. And I'm leaving out things like in, above, over, out, right? We're kind of leaving out those filler words. We're just
Mhm.
very specific, right? That's how people type into Google. And there are very specific search tools that we have because Google has been around for a while
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
And so, when did Google? I would say it's been around for I want to say at least 20 years. So we
Yeah.
have search tools that are very reliable and have been used for a long time to figure out, well, what words are they using? Actually, you know what? Anyone who's interested in learning more about keyword research, go back and listen to the episode that we
Yeah.
did
Yes.
about keyword
Yes.
research because we did a deeper dive. Okay, so I won't go too far into keyword research. We'll just give it as a teaser. If you want to learn more
Sure.
about that, listen to the other episode. We have very specific tools that we can use to figure out, well, what are people searching to find a therapist like me near them?
Hmm.
And that's the foundation of an SEO strategy is keyword research. So definitely listen to that episode. However, the way that people type into Chat GPT and similar AI search engines is different. They're not necessarily speaking in these little staccato sentences. They're giving these internal monologue. Well, when I was a child, I felt like my parents met my physical needs, but not my emotional needs. And I felt like I was always walking on eggshells around my dad. And, my sister kind of bullied me, but nobody noticed. And
Yeah. Right.
none of this is true information.
Uh-huh. Right.
Um,
Right.
and then they say, maybe they're talking into ChatGPT like this for months, and then they say, you know what, I think I'm ready for therapy based on everything that I said. Find me a therapist near me who you think is a good fit. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do we do keyword research on that, right? When someone's been
Right.
speaking these, internal monologue lines for such a
Hmm.
long time into their
Hmm.
chat, I will tell you.
Okay.
So it's not as clean and simple as the SEO keyword research was. We have to treat it a little bit more like an art than a science when we're optimizing for AIO. So what we want to do, and actually I think this maybe fits the therapist brain a little bit better anyway. We want to start thinking about our ideal client and what are some of those things, those thoughts that they have first thing in the morning, those thoughts that they
Mm.
have last thing at night as they're trying to fall asleep. What are the things that if their best friend who came into town that they haven't seen in a long time and they're like, I feel like I can finally speak some things off my chest that I haven't been able to say in a while. What are some things they say to their best friend? What are some things they would say into an anonymous forum if they knew that nobody knew who they were, right? What are
Right.
the
Right.
things that your client finally says maybe several sessions in or even several months in that they had been holding back because they just didn't want you to fully know them yet? You
Right.
have to start thinking about those things as real opportunities to build trust with a client on your website where they read your specialty page, so page for anxiety, page for postpartum depression, whatever it is, and they're reading through this page and they have this feeling of, you have been listening to my thoughts, you've been reading my journal, you've been looking at my text messages to the group thread, right? You've been looking at my searches. It almost has to be like oddly specific, right?
Right.
Right. So there was one like for postpartum depression or postpartum mental health, it might be something like, you set your baby down in the crib and you're so sleep deprived that they looked at you and you felt like they looked at you like they hated you. Something that almost like gives you goosebumps because it's so chilling and so specific, right?
Right.
You have to speak to your client with this level of specificity that, wow, you really get me. I haven't even sat down with you for a session yet, and you already get me. And it's not, I need a therapist. It's, I need you as my therapist. I want to work with you.
Right.
And so that is, if we are writing in these internal monologue lines of, I feel like I haven't gotten a good night's sleep in years. I feel so disconnected from my partner, ever since we had a kid. I worry that people are going to judge me if I tell them how I really feel, what my real thoughts are, right? Like these internal monologue lines that start with I feel this, I think that, I feel the weight of the world on my chest when I wake up in the morning, right? Finding opportunities on your website to speak in those internal monologue lines helps AI find you because that mirrors how people type into their chat.
Yeah.
People type and speak into their chat in these internal monologue lines. And so if your website mirrors that, you're speaking the same language as AI search, and it's called being AI pullable. We use the word pullable because AI kind of does this thing where it pulls information from the internet and kind of delivers it to the person who's searching for it.
Yeah.
And so having a section of every specialty page dedicated to internal monologue lines, or even sprinkling them throughout in a way that makes sense. It has to make sense with the copy, right? You can't just like suddenly just put all these internal monologue lines. You have to be artful with it with your copywriting. That's something that I help my coaching clients do, is be very intentional about their copywriting, because copy has to serve two functions. It has to be SEO and AIO optimized, but it also has to connect with humans and help them feel seen and make them want to choose you. So that's one area where AIO is starting to kind of separate from the pack from SEO, having those really great internal monologue lines. And one way that you can find those, if you're really struggling, a few places you can look. One is you can look through your inquiries that you've gotten so far. So for example, when someone reaches out to schedule a 15-minute phone consultation with me, there's a little form they have to fill out on my contact page. And there's a little section that's optional where they can put a sentence or two about what's bringing them into therapy. And that can be really, really helpful information for you to know, because for not just for clinically going into that appointment, that phone call, but also for your future marketing, because it captures a moment of awareness. We don't want to try to attract clients who are so early in their awareness that they don't even realize that they want or need therapy, because those are not people who are ready yet. And then we're not trying to speak to people who are like so deep into the process that they're like already at the end and don't need therapy anymore. We want to find people who are in this very specific window of awareness of, I have just enough awareness that I'm suffering and I can't white knuckle this and do it alone anymore. I need help. And the type of help I need is therapy. And I want therapy and I want it now. This is a very unique window of opportunity. There's some, Gottman Institute says people wait 6 years too long before getting couples therapy. I don't know what the stats are for individual, but so people are thinking about it for a really long time. But we have to capture people in a very specific phase of awareness and pain where it's just bad enough that they know that they need help and they've been trying to deal with it for themselves for so long and realize that they can't anymore. And so the language that they use when they're reaching out for you and reaching out for help from you gives us such valuable information about how do I help other people in this exact phase? I need to know
Right.
what words and phrases they're using to describe what they're going through and how they're struggling so that I can actually speak to more people who I can potentially help. Does that make sense the
Right.
way I'm
Yeah,
describing it,
it
Gordon?
does. And so I know I would imagine that you could get AI assistance with all of this, which makes it even more fascinating as far as being able to go in and describe your ideal client and put in, what the things they're struggling with and create some blog ideas based on this, or even write a blog article that you can edit and all of that kind of thing.
And let me tell you what, from what you said, what we want to do as humans and then what we want AI to do, because we can work together harmoniously. And what we want to
Yeah.
do is we don't want to replace what we're really good at for so
Mm-hmm.
many different reasons that I don't need to get into. We don't want to replace the human part that we're really good at. And we don't want to ask AI to do something that it can't do, which is be human and fully understand the human experience. It
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
But what we can ask it to do is analyze a ton of data and look for patterns. We
Mm-hmm.
can ask it to take something that's overwhelming for the human mind to try to read all of and say, hey, can you summarize this for me? Can you find the
Right.
main talking points of all these
Mm-hmm.
questions and queries? Can you find the ones that are most relevant to someone who's seeking therapy versus someone who's seeking information on something, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that's what it's really good at, right? And it doesn't replace the blog writing, but I can
Mm-hmm.
take my phone with me while I'm pushing my son in his little red car. And I can say, hey, I just had an idea for a blog post. Help me transcribe it while I walk and push my son to the park. It can help me transcribe and edit it in real time.
Wow.
Give me the paragraphs and let me approve them as we go. And then at the end, give
Mm-hmm.
me a draft so I can send it to my VA and she can get it published next week. My virtual assistant, she can get it published next week, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we use AI, the way I use it, as an extraction tool. I have the wisdom, not only from human experience, but from being a therapist of the personal and the professional. I use it as a tool to extract that wisdom, organize it, make it digestible in a way that my ideal client can find it, feel heard, and want to reach out. So we're not
Right.
using AI as a replacement. It's not write my blog post for me. No, it's going to be a terrible blog post and it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
fool anybody.
Right.
But if you
Right.
say, hey, help me extract this information that I already have on this topic,
Mm-hmm.
help me organize it in an order that makes sense, it's really good at that.
Yeah, and I'm amazed how much am using ChatGPT for so many things. Not only business stuff, but just in my personal life. I mean, as far as, okay, give me 5 restaurant ideas for this type of food, kind of thing or whatever. And it's just so, I think, more user friendly than just traditional search.
Yeah, it actually skips a lot of steps. So what you have to think about is that we are all overstimulated unless you're living in a meditation
Uh-huh.
retreat, right? Like we're all overstimulated. There's too much information flying at us at all times. And so what we need help with is distilling things. Help me cut out all the filler and
Uh-huh.
just get to the thing that I want. Just give me the best options. Don't give me every type of Indian food in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the
Right.
5 best ones, and then I'll decide based on what's close, what's open, what
Right.
I
Right.
like. And so we need to be really good at helping AI do its job. Its job is to
Mm-hmm.
cut out the noise and give the best result. So we have to do our job of showing AI exactly who we are, who we help, what we help them with, so that they know that we're the best choice for particular clients, not every client. So one thing that AI is actually very good at is looking at nuance when making suggestions, and that works to our favor. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you an example that's relevant to me because I'm working with a coaching client who has an intersection of different specialties. She works with neurodivergence. She also helps families in different ways. Like she can work with kids, teens, the adults, the individuals, the couples, like all different combos. She works with people who are adopting or post-adoption. She works with trauma, very trauma-informed, trauma-focused. And so interestingly enough, you might think, wow, this is a tough practice to market because do you go the
Mm-hmm.
trauma way? Do you go the neurodivergent way? Do you go
Mm-hmm.
the kids and teens way? Do you go the adults and couples way? It seems like it's all over the place. But they actually all map so well to each other because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
neurodivergent individuals experience trauma. A lot of people who have experienced adoption on either side have also experienced some type of trauma or loss.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Right.
people are neurodivergent and adopted and trauma history, right? There's a lot of layers. And so a
Mm-hmm.
typical SEO strategy could actually miss the nuance there and make it very hard for people to find this person because
Uh-huh.
when they're thinking about their own psychological needs and their own family, they're like, well, what do I type in? Do I try to find a trauma therapist? Do I find a therapist who's a specialist on adoption? Do I find a neurodivergent affirming therapist? I don't know. Do I find a couples therapist, right? They're confused because their family has so many unique needs that are layered on
Mm-hmm.
top of each other and they don't know which specialist to find.
Right.
But if this person goes to ChatGPT or something similar and says, hey, I need a therapist who kind of gets all this stuff and lists it out, well, who do you think is going to show up at the top of the list?
Right.
My coaching client, because she's doing such a good job nailing down her messaging and being very clear on her messaging on all these different specialty pages and having them all linked to each other in ways that
Mm-hmm.
shows Google and shows ChatGPT, hey, all these things are interconnected.
Wow.
Isn't that
Yeah.
an
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
use case?
yeah, it really is. I mean, it's just kind of being able to help connect the dots with all the technology and the magic of the internet or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing and it feels kind of overwhelming. But I think if people break it down into small pieces and just do a little bit at a time, that's where they're going to make the impact as far as and start seeing the results with all of this.
Exactly. And one of the things that
Yeah.
I've been helping this particular client do is find the through line of who she works with. And one of the things we figured out is she works with people who don't really fit into a box. They don't fit into a label. They don't fit into a
Mm-hmm.
traditional, maybe, oh, she also works with multicultural families too. It's people who just don't
Mm-hmm.
quite fit the mold or quite fit the
Right.
dominant narrative. And so we've been working that in too. And
Yeah.
so she might also attract other people into her practice who don't necessarily fit that particular specialty, but who she might want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ individuals, artists, creatives, people who think outside the box, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what's beautiful is that if you're very clear in your messaging, a lot of therapists actually are afraid of this. They're afraid that if they niche too much, that they're going to exclude people that they would want to work with.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you speak really clearly to one particular individual and you do it well, there are other people who don't necessarily fit that who still really want to work with you. I'll give you an
Yeah.
example of that. I have on my website, I very clearly work with women identified individuals, women and moms. It doesn't mean that I don't work with men or non-binary individuals. It just means that I really promote to women on my practice. And all the
Uh-huh.
photos are of women. I have very feminine themes. I got pink all over the place. Men
Mm-hmm.
still reach out to me. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
man who was like an executive, maybe in his 50s, who said there was one thing on my website that really spoke to him was something that said, everything looks fine on the outside, but you don't feel great on the inside. And that was what made this person want to reach out to me.
Sure.
So you
Sure.
never know what it is on your website that is going
Mm-hmm.
to connect, but something could really connect and you might attract somebody outside of that niche into your
Yeah.
practice. So
Right.
that's just such a common fear. I thought
Yeah.
I'd take an opportunity.
Right. Right. And another example I like to give is one of my good friends is a cardiologist. But if I have a medical question about something, whenever I see Keith, I say, "Hey, I've got a question for you." And it might not be cardiac related, but he's got experience in the medical field and he can address those issues. And so same concept, really. Yeah. So,
Yeah, same concept.
well, Natalie, I know we could spend just all kinds of time talking about all these things, but tell folks how they can get in touch with you and find out more about all of this that you've got available to people.
Yes, I'd love to. So, one thing that I have coming up soon, August 15th, is an all-day SEO intensive. So this is where I teach therapists the step-by-step strategy to implement SEO into their website. So you could have the most beautiful website in the world, but if you don't have an SEO strategy to go along with it, it's like having a billboard in the middle of the woods. You need a strategy in order. I think we've made that clear from our episode today.
Right.
You need a search strategy in order to help people find you. So when I say SEO, I really mean SEO plus AIO because they really layer on top of each other.
Right.
So I've got this one coming up in August. We can include the link for that in the show notes as well.
Yes.
If that's not the right fit, I also offer one-to-one coaching with therapists, which can be more tailored to their practices and their unique needs, individual practices as well as group practices. And then lastly, I also offer some done-for-you services for therapists who say, you know what, after listening to these episodes, it's just too much for me. It's too technical.
Yeah.
I just want to hand it off to you and have you do it for me.
Right. And there's no shame in that whatsoever.
Hey, focus on the clinical work and let somebody else handle the marketing.
Right.
So
well, that's great.
We do that too. And if anyone wants to find me, it's yourspaceforgrowth.com.
Yes. And again, like Natalie said, we'll have all these in the show notes and the show summary for people to find out more. And so, Natalie, thanks. This has been fascinating. And I really appreciate all that you're doing to help people with all these things.
Amazing, Gordon. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, again, a big thanks to Natalie for being on the podcast. And be sure to check out her things. If you'll check out the show notes and the show summary, you can find links to her website and to how you can connect with her and find out more about ways in which she can work with you to help with your SEO and now your AIO, which I think is really exciting stuff to really kind of learn about all of that. And also, if you're interested in working with me, be sure and go over to the website, practiceoftherapy.com, and just click on the link there that says coaching and consulting, and you can find out how to connect with me. And hopefully we'll be able to work together on some things. So yeah, check that out. And also, big thanks to TherapyNotes for being a sponsor of this podcast. They are the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers. They're who I use in my practice and absolutely can stand behind them 100%. They have got a platform that is pretty complete. I can't think of anything that they've left out. Anywhere from, as we mentioned, AI. They have AI support with your documentation and that sort of thing through their add-on called Therapy Fuel. And then also just with scheduling and filing insurance claims, collecting payments, all of those kinds of things. TherapyNotes is such a robust system for that. And you can check them out by going to practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. And if you'll use that promo code, just Gordon, Gordon, you can try them out for 2 months for free. So be sure and check them out. And looking forward to you being back with us. Do take time to follow us or subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it, and tell your friends about it too. And we've got some other great episodes coming out here in the next few weeks, over the next few weeks, rather, as we come out every Monday. Be sure to check us out. Thanks again, folks. You have been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com for more information, resources, and tools to help you in starting, building, and growing your private practice. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up to receive the free Private Practice Startup Guide at practiceoftherapy.com. And to find more great podcasts like this one, please visit the Psychcraft Network at psychcraftnetwork.com. The information in this podcast is intended to be accurate and authoritative concerning the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, or producers are rendering legal, accounting, or clinical advice. And if you need help in these areas, be sure to find the right professional to help you with these things.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today.